Hello, so I'm sitting here with David Hemme from Hemme Brothers Creamery. We are out in the middle of nowhere. It took me forever to get here. Tell me exactly where we're located.
Well, we're 7 miles north of I-70, but you're right. There is nothing out here.
Other than your cows and some wonderful Quark and cheese. And I was actually really excited. You showed me around like your different kinds of facility areas, including your aging area and the curd making station, and just seeing Quark, in those little jars. It makes me so happy, really, and that somebody in Missouri is able to do that and do it well is, I think, something that you don't see a lot in the United States. So.
Well, as you well know, in Germany, people buy it to eat. And they take it home and they eat it. Well, in the United States, it's very difficult to do Quark because Americans are horrible about buying cheese, stick it in the refrigerator, letting it sit there, a half-open container, and then throw it away 6 months later. That's the way Americans do cheese. And unfortunately, that is the case. And so Quark has never been popular because people would not add an additional culture, which stabilizes it, and we do. So we can easily we have a 75-day label on it. If we would do it like they do it in Europe, it would probably be closer to 10 days, and then it'd start going bad. And so retailers want no part of it, because they could buy a case of 12, sell 3, throw 9 in the dumpster.
So is it bad for me to, I've eaten it a couple of weeks after opening it.
No, it doesn't make any difference if you open it or not.
Okay.
No, it's good. And, we've had people that have had their refrigerators set at like, the mid-30s, and it'll last 8-9 months.
I love Quark. I'll eat it like pure. I'll eat it spread onto bread with a little bit of chives and some salt on top. I eat it. Oh my gosh. I could find 100 ways to eat it.
Oh, yes.
And it's such a German staple that I've just been so happy to be able to find, especially for like my German cheesecakes, the Käsekuchen that you also appreciate. It's not usual that somebody goes into the Quark business, but what inspired you to make it happen?
We started with 2 cheeses. One was cheddar. Cheddar is very versatile. So we have 17 different ways we go with cheddar. And Americans love cheddar. But we wanted to have something unique. A guy came in and taught us how to make it, but nobody's heard of it. Now we had 100% of the market, but there just wasn't any market, so it didn't do as much good. So it was something that we were tasting, and that worked really well up until COVID. And then we had to stop tasting, and maybe we'll start again next year. But chefs know what it is. The people that do, like for instance, you use it for home use. We have a 2-pound container, and that's what we have in our house. Just because we throw it in everything.
Oh, I bought the 5-pound.
And you bought the 5-pound.
I'm really serious. Well, actually, he gave me the 5 pounds, so I'm lying about that.
Well, I know you're serious. Because if you're going to make a German cheesecake, there goes 2 pounds.
Yep.
So, okay, that's almost half empty right there. And then if you make another one for a neighbor that you like, well, then it's almost empty.
But they don't appreciate it as much as I would, so...
Well, I don't know.
Cheesecake gets no sharing in my household. I eat the whole thing. But as you know, I'm eating for 2 right now, so it's okay.
Yes.
So I'm still sharing in a way.
Oh, yes.
No, my husband actually is come to love it. We've been together 10 years now, and he's really taken to heart the German food that I cook all the time. So
yeah.
I do feel like that's not wasted energy if I share it with him, because I feel like German cooking, it does take a lot of effort, because sometimes the ingredients like Quark are not easy to be found, so you gotta really forage and hunt for the ingredients, and then it's translate the measurements, things like that. It's like a whole different ballgame, but I love it. So, but the Quark making was kind of a happy accident then, in a way.
With the food service side of it, We have very good margins with it. We will use one of these vats behind us that holds about 3,200 pounds of milk. We get a very good yield, and we can set a price that chefs really like, and so we can move a lot of it through food service. And that's where we're going to, until we get back to sampling at farmers markets on a regular basis, and whenever this cloud is totally gone, this COVID cloud that we
I can't believe it's still here. I totally get it. So you kind of need people to be able to get a taste of it, so they fully understand, okay, what is this? How do I use it? What can I make with it? So they don't just use half the jar and let the rest sit for 6 months,
Yeah, I mean, you need that, and we do have some people that's part of their life now. They enjoy it, it's so versatile. I mean, and that's exactly why food service. These chefs, they don't want me to flavor anything. They want something plain. They want to be in charge of that, because that's what they do. And I get that. So it really works well for them.
Although I'm really curious, so you do have a few different flavors of your Quark. Which ones are those? Just the one? Honey? Didn't I see another one at the market?
No.
Okay. Maybe I was dreaming. Maybe it was just all the other cheeses that you
Okay.
flavor.
No.
Okay.
It's just the one. And our retailers really don't like that.
They don't like the honey one?
No, they don't want us to have anything but plain. Because they want to pair the Quark with a raspberry jalapeno jam,
Yep.
and that way they sell both.
Which is also a really funny thing that I would never think of doing in Germany. Yeah, I guess one of the most popular ways in Germany to eat Quark is like with herbs,
Yes.
like an herbed Quark, to like spread onto bread, like fresh baked bread. I'm getting so hungry just sitting here.
Grunauer in it was Crossroads District. Crossroads?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just right across the tracks from Union Station.
Yeah.
He has like 13 or 16 recipes with different herbs and whatnot that he puts in as a spread for his bread. And then he's always rotating those things around. And they're wonderful.
I know. I love eating there. And I don't get to eat there very often because I cook so much German food that a lot of times I'm just like, I can't see German food anymore.
Let's go Chinese.
I know. It's like, usually it's like, let's go eat Thai or like sushi or something that's not German at all. And then I'm also like, because I've like made, I make German food all the time, I have very high standards.
Yeah.
I mean, Grunauer is fantastic. That's probably my number one German style, even with the Austrian, the German style restaurant in Kansas City.
But there's a few old timers that can remember their parents making it. They would put it in a clean sock and put it on a clothesline.
That's kind of
and let it drain out in the yard, and then turn the sock inside out, and there you go. There you have it. But they just refer to it as clabber.
Clabber?
Clabber. And then when I started making corn, oh yeah, that's exactly what clabber tasted like. So,
funny.
but they stopped doing it. It became culture changed, I guess.
Like literally.
Literally changed. That's right. Started eating cheddar like other Americans.
That's funny. So what's your process of making Quark? Can you kind of take us through it? Because every time I've tried to make it, and I told you before we started the interview, but it is such an undertaking for me. It's like a several day long process, and then I don't like the end result. So then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna write down what I did, but so I can come back to it in a few years and see if I can make it better.
I would invite you to do that, but you live an hour and 15 minutes away, and it's a 3-day process.
And actually, with getting lost with the navigation, it was an hour and a half.
That's true. He'll pasteurize the milk, and then he'll add the rennet and culture, and then he'll what they call it a cookout, and then he lets it sit overnight. Just sits there, room temperature, and the next morning they'll grab just scoops, and they'll scoop it all into socks, They're about this big around and about 3 feet long.
So they're like stockings.
They're well, they're made in Israel actually, but goat cheese makers will use them.
But they look like a sock.
It's yep. A big around, this long. I'll show them to you after a while. But,
Yeah.
And then you put a hook on it, and you just set it there on your drain table, and then it drains overnight.
So yeah, I've like tied it to like the faucet.
Yeah, there you
Links
go.
it over the sink.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of vaguely remember because it's been so long again. But okay,
Yeah.
so then you and then to whatever desired consistency you want it. Right?
By the time you let it sit there overnight, then almost all the way is drained out of it. And that's why ours is so firm instead of high moisture. Because that is a very low tech way of doing it, very low cost. We can still have a nice product. It's going to be a little bit different than what you're talking about, like a yogurt consistency.
Yeah.
Because we don't have the equipment to do it. Because we don't have a market that'll support it.
Until we start working together.
There
and I can
you
create
go.
a market for you.
There you go.
So maybe we need to look into that.
Well,
No, but yeah, that's interesting because, randomly, and that's I think something I've had an issue with, where it's like, oh, I didn't maybe let it sit long enough, so I'd put it back in, or maybe it was too long and it was too firm, and it was just and the taste is just slightly off. But honestly, I've never worked with cultures, adding cultures. I always used buttermilk, but I did buy some cultures about 6 months ago. They're still sitting in my freezer. That I never used. Would you say, being at the market, because that's how I got to know you ultimately, and how I got to know that you also make giant packages of Quark, because before I could only find the little tiny jars for $8 a piece and better cheddar. And I was like, oh my god, you're a lifesaver, because that's all I want is a giant tub of plain Quark, and you're able to provide. So I'm so glad that I found you through the Overland Park Farmers Market. But would you say that's really excelled your business, or do you what do you think is the advantage of being at the market, being able to talk to people, etc.?
we started this 6 years ago, and we're very fortunate. We have, this year, Overland Park Farmers Market, of course, is voted the number one market in the nation.
That's so awesome.
The number 2 market in the nation is Columbia, Missouri, and we're also there.
So you're doing great.
No, I mean, it could be better, because, and the reason you have this is because they have great products, and they have very loyal bases that come every week, and that was a great brand builder. It's an hour drive to Columbia, hour and 15 minutes to Overland Park. So we live right between these 2 great markets, and both of those markets have been, we couldn't have built our brand as fast. No way. Show Bonnie started with zero, but they just threw millions and millions of dollars in advertising. We don't have that. So what we have to do is we have to, meet our consumer, put a face with their food, because that's what people are interested in. That's they see Sophie, and then, oh, this is Sophie's recipe. Well, there's your face with that recipe, and that's very important.
I hope I don't lose my face.
Oh, I think you're going to be all right. But no, it's important that they can ask us about how we raise our livestock, what type of what's our attitude in regards to agronomy and whatever. And so they may not agree with us with everything, but they trust us farther than they do corporate America. They don't trust that at all, because they can't pronounce most of the words on the label.
Exactly.
And so they think, should I be eating something I can't pronounce? And like with all of our cheeses, pasteurized milk, rennet, culture, salt. That's it.
And your cows look pretty happy.
They're happy.
Out here, plenty of grass.
Well, I don't want you to take this wrong, Sophie.
Yeah.
But see, I've always told people that dairy cows are just like women. You treat them right, or they will get even.
So what that means.
You have to treat them right every day. That you cannot cut a corner. I missed probably 80% of my kids' ball games because I stuck with the cows until that was done. And if I missed weddings or funerals or my class reunions or whatever, the cows come first. Always have. Always will. And if you can't do that, do not milk cows.
But
they are the queens.
Your wife came first, right?
She knows where she's at.
Well, thank you so much, David, for taking some time and sitting
it's not a
down and
problem at all.
showing me around. Thanks for having me.
Well, I'm glad you came.
I'm glad to see you at the market. Don't forget, you can stop by through the first week in December. That's when it ends.
The market itself is Saturday before Thanksgiving.
Okay.
And then we take the next Saturday off. And then the holiday market is first Saturday in December.
Yeah, I want to say it's like the 3rd or the 4th.
Something like that.